About a month ago, Tales of Arise has finally released. And of course, as an animator and anime fan myself, I had to buy the game and check out the wonderful opening animation. The opening is animated by Studio Ufotable, known for producing hit anime titles such as the Fate Stay Night series and its movies, as well as the Demon Slayer series and the recent Mugen Train movie. And all of this stuff I'm too lazy to read out. Furthermore, Ufotable has been animating the openings of the Tales of games for over a decade now. So today we will be looking into the details of the animation and have a look at the responsible staff behind this opening. My name's Reiji, a 2D animator here on YouTube, and now let's take a closer look at the Tales of Arise opening. The opening is storyboarded by Masaru Takeuchi and Takahiro Miura. Takahiro has also worked on the storyboards for the Demon Slayer movie, Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, and the Heavensfield movies. He also storyboarded both openings of the Unlimited Blade Works anime, and also did a lot of key animation himself in multiple Ufotable's productions as well. The funny thing is, while the in-betweeners are properly credited in the end of the game, it seems that the key animators are not credited correctly. They listed them as original artwork and second original artwork, even though the proper definition would be key animators and second key animators, or at least second key animation. That's actually really odd. I wonder why they did that. Moving on, let's take a look at some cuts of the opening, and right as it begins, Ufotable does their infamous time-lapse 3D sky. They did this in previous Tales openings and the Fate Stay Night series openings as well, and you know what? I love it! Right after comes a scene that as animator is causing me personal dread. These scenes of 3D background and characters being animated from perspective inside a walk cycle is a personal nightmare, and I have only the deepest respect for the key animators and in-betweeners to nail this one and keep the characters to look on model. I definitely find scenes like these 10 times harder to animate than those action-filled, high-speed fight scenes we usually title as top-tier animation. Not enough credit goes to stuff like this. This also shows that they have done the 3D mapping right and that the entire background is completely modeled, meshed, and mapped with high-quality textures, and as soon as the camera is turned, the background is actually painted in 2D. Now that's what I call a smooth transition. The next scene right here where Zephyr is walking up to Elfin is something I want to talk about. Because here is when you notice how the character's design was changed to fit the animation better. Specifically the faces. Look at Zephyr in this scene here. And now look at Zephyr's in-game model. It might just be me, but I feel like his in-game model gives off a completely different vibe in terms of his character. There's a few more characters where the same thing occurs as well, but I also want to mention that Elfin looks pretty close to his in-game model here. Now let's actually start looking at some scenes that really caught my eye. This scene where Elfin pulls out the blazing sword from Shion's chest. It's really short, but there's a lot of things going on at the same time. First of all, it's really not typical for Ufotable to work with pen pressure. Usually their work is rather smooth and excels in that every line is smooth and clean look. But here they did something that usually Wit Studio is known for. Attack on Titan. Fake pen pressure, or artificial pen pressure. You see it clearly on Elfin's knuckles and Shion's neck. It's a subtle detail in the keyframes, but it makes the whole drawing look 10 times better if executed correctly. And they totally nailed it here. Since this scene is really important to the narrative, they used a lot of detail on the sword as well. This is only possible because the sword isn't animated frame by frame, but seems to be a still frame that is being tracked to Elfin's hand once he grabs it. They also clearly used a clipping mask on the fire core here to hide the rest of the sword, which is being revealed as it's being pulled. Did I mention how beautiful literally every drawing of these flame frames are? You could take a screenshot every new frame. This is just nice. I wish I could tell you who the key animators for the combat scenes here are, but I cannot see or recognize a specific trait of an animator I would know of. The only thing I recognize is the typical wind shapes that appear on impacts. It seems Ufotable really puts points on corporate identity on those, because I especially remember these from Nozomu Abe's work in the Fate series, but they're really adapting these now for all other titles. Takahiro Miura, who is listed as both storyboarder and keyframe artist, most likely had a hand in keyframing these, or at least has done the layout for them. Unfortunately, no production material was released, so it's impossible to tell, so please take my assumptions with a grain of salt here. Next up we have these two amazing shots. These are actually my favorite because of the sheer depth and scale it manages to convey. Animation wise, the first one here isn't all that special, but the second one with all the lightning effects and use of 3D environment and 2D animation hitting into the foreground just gets me every time. But more to the lightning in a bit. I want to talk about the zoom effect of these two first. Both of these cuts are called a Dolly Shot. A Dolly Shot is a zoom that is not made with a camera lens, but actually is achieved by physically moving the camera backwards. Ufotable pulls this off perfectly since they combine 3D backgrounds and hand-drawn 2D characters. How this is done is they animate the characters frame by frame with filling out the entire screen and zooming out a bit with each new drawing. Once the character's body is fully on screen, the animated file is stuck in place where they are meant to stand on the 3D background, allowing the camera to move in 3D space with the character perfectly in sync with the environment. Moving on to my personal favorite scene. I think I might be a bit biased cause lightning is my favorite element too. I'm just a huge sucker for it. They actually took it a whole step further and even animated the 3D ground breaking apart, and I honestly cannot really tell if the lightning is 3D here or not. It might be stylized 3D, which is done frame by frame in 3D, but it could be hand-drawn too, and I honestly cannot really tell, to be honest. Now comes the climax of the opening, with Elfin and the antagonist finally facing off each other, starting off with another Dolly Shot. I love how they placed lights in the 3D space where the blazing swords are located in the 2D space, creating a beautiful synergy between 2D and 3D again. Here you see the digitally added rim light of both characters being added in post-compositing to reflect the light of the swords. They both clash and end the climax in a fade to white impact frame collision. I gotta be honest here, the impact frames look a little lackluster. If you take a closer look, you see that it's really just 3 frames looping, and then the brightness is pushed until the screen fades into white. We know they could have done a little better, as we have seen in the Tales of Systeria opening, but maybe the deadline was getting too close, or some animators were busy working on the new Demon Slayer season. Who knows, but I think it's still alright, I guess. We get to the final scene, which is another Dolly Shot. I bet this is what you take away from this video, huh? Ufotable, the Dolly Shot studio. I just want to point out how they managed to make the grass look so good, because it seems that each grass blade is rendered in 3D. Anyway, this marks the end of this video. If you think it was yank, make sure to give me a dislike and unsubscribe so I have a reason to cry myself to sleep. Big thanks to my patrons on Patreon, especially Overlord Panda, and also big thanks to Danny, Astral, Antris, and Stefan. Catch you guys next videos, and bye bye!